Hello and welcome back to Untitled-2 podcast. My name is Connor.
My name is Ash.
And today we have a very special guest over from Bantams Banter.
Very special, that's nice. That's the best intro I've ever had. Hello.
Yeah, we've been planning to do this for a long time.
We have.
We're woefully underprepared, so me and Ash are sharing a mic, so if
so I'll probably be quiet, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You can make an effort to
lean in.
Yeah, hug up.
I wish people could see what I can see right now. But it's two guys on an ottoman. Essentially, it's a footstool.
Yeah,
it's a footstool.
We're sat on
a poof.
We're sat on like £400 worth of retro game consoles as well.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, they're all inside the ottoman.
Well, I hope they're going to play a part in the podcast.
Well, no, it's
because if there's one thing I love about gaming, it's retro gaming.
Well, we'll come on to that later.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so we wanted to bring you on to get you to talk about your world.
Okay.
But then we'll pull you into ours for a bit towards the end.
I'm looking forward to it.
So the deal is you try and convince me, mostly me, because Ash is sort of on the fence.
Okay.
That football, just convince me about it.
All right, let me try and get a gauge first. A bit sort of like Paul McKenna style. I'm going to try and... That is Paul McKenna, who's a psychologist. When I said that, it sounded like I made it up. I think he's the same.
Yeah, I think you
he's
could
been
have just made it
overtaken
up.
by the other guy, Darren, what's he called? Darren Brown. Okay, let's go Darren Brown for a younger audience who might... Right, so Connor, your understanding of football is what?
I watched one World Cup and Italy won, so...
Good start. You've watched some football, and why don't you like it?
I remember after that World Cup, I tried watching, I don't even know what it's called, just regular football, Chelsea, Arsenal.
Yeah, league football, domestic football.
I tried watching that with my dad. My dad's an Arsenal fan, so, I was watching Arsenal games with him. And I just got so fed up of people rolling on the floor, pretending their legs were broken after the lightest tap. And, it's so obvious that they're just trying to get a penalty. And, in some cases, maybe even the coach has said...
It's gamesmanship. It's poor gamesmanship, but it's that's professional footballers pushing the rules as far as they can.
Yeah.
It's awful. I mean, you see... that's a part of the game that I hate. You see rugby players and stuff, and rugby players can take big hits. But a footballer gets a brush on the face by a finger and it's on the floor. But it's not the footballer trying to convince you that he's hurt. He's literally just playing the rules.
Exactly.
If I can get
the fact that it was that obvious and that dishonest, that's what really put me off.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get that much at the level of football that I love, which is the Football League, and I love that because really I've not had a choice. Because I'm a Bradford fan, and that's where we've spent a lot of our time stuck. So I'll focus a lot on that sort of league, and I think that if I'm ever going to be able to convince you to like football, that's the sort of level of football you need to be getting into, because top level football, Premier League football, switches me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Ash, you're on the fence. Before we started the podcast, you said to me, I do like football a little bit. In what way? What is it?
I like watching it. It's a good sport, I do like sports. But I just don't follow the Premier Leagues or any teams or anything like that. I'll watch World Cup every time it's on.
You don't favour a team?
No,
not even Bradford City.
Not really. No.
Not yet. Give me an hour.
Well, I haven't really watched any of the matches or anything like that because I just don't watch. Yeah,
Have you ever been to Valley Parade to watch a live match?
No.
Right. Okay. This is going to be easy for me.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll tell you why I love football. And it could be an endless conversation. I could easily write 10 books on it. But the reason I love football is, one, because to me it's an art form. And I think that this is similar to why Ash likes watching it, because when you're watching somebody who's got that much skill, that much natural ability, and there are a lot of them on the pitch able to put that together to have an end result that affects thousands of people, that's the main thing. Yeah. I love that. I love the passion of fans. So there are a lot of fans who, let's be frank, are knobheads. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And do you know what? Generally, a football fan is what would put off someone like you, Connor. You might see a football fan and think, I don't really want to go there.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
He's an intimidating wanker.
Yeah.
And he's putting me off ever going to watch football.
Yeah.
There are lots of fans like that. There are.
Yeah, football hooliganism, as it's called.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to hear a clip from a podcast I recorded at Chelsea. We don't have the exact clip, but I got punched that was one of those fans. He punched me because I was happy my team were doing well.
Oh.
And we'll get into that a bit more later.
That's one of the things I really don't like about football is that people take it so seriously that it's enough to beat other people up. Like,
yeah, I mean, I take it dead seriously. Like footballers, although I'm not a football, relatively speaking, I'm nothing to the game of football professionally. Yeah. But football has given me so much. Like my entire life really has revolved around football.
Yeah.
So I've worked at football clubs from leaving school. And I've always wanted to work in media, and I love football, so the combination of those two has been what's made my career.
Yeah.
But yeah, football fans can be a nightmare, but the passion in football is another reason I love it, because the combination of that art form coming together on the pitch, and then that having a result that makes loads of fans happy and react to it and cheer and uncontrollable emotion. Again, on the clips we're going to show, there's I can't control my emotions when I'm at football. I'm a real heart on my sleeve kind of character anyway, straight talker. But when it's football, fuck me, it's like I need to be psychologically analysed. I definitely do, because when I listen back to my own podcast in the edit, I have no idea what's going on, and that happens to a lot of footballers. For me, I think it's in quite a nice way. I just clearly am enjoying what's going on in the moment. Some football fans think, yeah, we fucking won the playoff final. Let's go and beat the shit out of the opposition fans.
Exactly, yeah.
And Millwall are a prime example of that. Bradford City played Millwall in the playoff final, which is a big game, Connor, by the way. You win a playoff final. You go to the next tier of football. Which again, that's another facet of why football's so amazing, is that there's this league system that you can make your way up, and the higher you get, the more money you make. The more money you make, generally speaking, the more successful you are.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you could go off on so many branches in football, because there is that, the more money we make, the more successful we'll be. But if we do make more money and we spend all that money and we still fuck up, then we're ruined. Yeah. So there's always like the human element of the manager might be rubbish, spend all that money, not do very well.
Yeah.
So there's always that risk. And again, for me, that's exciting. There's the risk that things might cock up. And if you put it in computer game, for instance, you might be stuck on a level. Tomb Raider, I think, is the last game where I properly made my way through all the levels trying to work out things.
Yeah.
But by the way, unbelievable game on the PlayStation 1. In fact, I first played Tomb Raider.
I think I'm sat on it.
Really? Yeah. In fact, I first played Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn, and previous to that, I'd only ever played on a Mega Drive. So when I saw Tomb Raider on a Sega Saturn, my mind was like, what the fuck? What is this? There's a 3D world.
I didn't know it was on anything but PlayStation.
Sega Saturn, yeah. I had a friend who had a Sega, and it was on there. Yeah, some of the first, more advanced games I played were on Sega Saturn, so Virtua Fighter and...
Yeah.
There was a football game. In fact, it might have been called Virtua Soccer. I think Virtua was on a lot of. It was the opening line of many games to make you think, "Oh my god, virtual reality." And you look back at them now, and they're shit. They look like the game is made of Lego. But at the time, it was unbelievable, because football games just used to be flat, and it was. Although I used to be addicted to them, it was boring, really.
I had a FIFA for Nintendo 64. I can't remember which one it was, but they didn't have the rights to footballers' names, so you had David Beckham.
Oh, so that was pro. It was International Superstar Soccer, which is now Pro Evolution Soccer. So ISS, it used to be known as ISS 64.
Are you a FIFA or a Pro Evo guy?
FIFA. Now, for a long time, I was a Pro Evo guy, because and still now actually Pro Evo is a better. It's a more realistic football experience, but FIFA is just so much more realistic. You get they've got official licenses, and they've got official kit and things like that, and it just looks nicer.
Yeah.
So it's like a bargaining chip, really. I want the game I'm playing to look more real, and I think that's more important to someone who, like me, is a football league fan, so a fan of the teams in the lower divisions, because when you see those teams with the full kit.
Yeah.
It's a massive novelty in a football game.
Yeah.
Because my generation grew up where Bradford City were never on computer games until 99-2000. So FIFA 2000 was the first game Bradford City were on.
Wow.
And that's only because we were in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I used to, on FIFA 96, for instance, on Mega Drive, I used to have to spend hours making the team. Typing in the players' names and things like that, which I love doing. I used to love it. I made my school team on there and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So personalisation's always been a massive thing for me. I used to love making myself as a player on the old FIFAs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, FIFA now is the standout game. I mean, Pro Evolution Soccer, or is it still called? It's Pro Evo still, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still called Pro Evolution.
Because it used to be ISS. It used to be International Superstar Soccer, and then it was International Superstar Soccer Pro Evolution, and then they dropped the International Superstar Soccer bit. But I always loved ISS on PlayStation stuff like that, because it just felt like a more authentic footballing experience. Passing and things like that was much more realistic, and I guess if you're a player, that's really important to you. But I mean, Pro Evo's lost their licensing to like Champions League and stuff like that. Again, Connor, I know that probably didn't mean very much to you, but official licensing is a massive part of realism now. Like computer games, as I'm sure you know, realism is one of the most important things.
Yeah,
unless you're a fan of Nintendo, in which case,
Well, I feel like to the industry themselves that realism is important, but like to fans and stuff, it's different between persons.
Yeah, I agree.
Between people. But yeah, realism's like massive in games now. So being able to like have an actual real life footballer who's been 3D scanned in a game and stuff like that is massively important.
Yeah, it's unreal, isn't it? And the technology. I mean, I can't even fathom. I've been trying to think about this recently. How do you even begin to put together a computer game? Like a football game is a good example, because essentially there you're really only in control of the player who at the time has the ball.
Yeah.
And yet the opposition that you're playing against might be computer controlled. Yeah. And yet they're still providing decent opposition for you to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
How is it? It just boggles my mind.
Building the game itself is like the easiest part. You've got to build the engine first, which controls all the physics and stuff like that, and how the game's going to look. And then once you've got that down, it's just a matter of like sending art department guys jobs to like go and make the clothing and players and
whatnot.
But
it's witchcraft. It's absolute witchcraft.
Yeah, and it takes... back in like 1999 or something, Crash Bandicoot came out, and then like a year later another Crash Bandicoot came out. But now it's like... games take like 5 years at least to come out. It's mental.
Well, gaming's I know we've gone off football and we're straight into gaming already, but gaming's changing, isn't it? I mean, Fortnite. My sons play that. They absolutely love it. It's a free game. Like the paid for game might as well have never existed, because everyone just plays the free one now. It's using one of the best gaming engines in the world. Is it the Unreal?
Yeah, Unreal Engine.
It's made by the guys that made one of my favourite games ever, Gears of War.
Yeah, well, the Unreal Engine's owned by Epic Games.
Is it? Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, I love Gears of War because it was a great game. I used to love playing co-op missions with mates online. It's like my first online experience was Xbox 360. And I used to absolutely love it. I mean, I did get the internet thing for the PS2, but it never seemed to like work properly.
I had that as well.
But yeah, Xbox 360, I used to love playing Gears of War as like a team thing. Again, I used to have mates who were footballers at Bradford. We used to play online Call of Duty 2, Gears of War. Gears of War 2 came out, wasn't as good as the original, but still we used to play that online. And we used to help each other get XP points on the 360, because Gears of War, you could complete it and get loads of XP points, but then if you played it again as a duo, you'd get loads of points as well. And then if you played online, did different things, you beat a boss in a certain way, you get those points.
Yeah, like the achievements.
Yeah. Massively important to the footballers, because when you're a footballer, naturally you're competitive. You know, the only way you can be successful in football is to want to be a winner.
Yeah.
And it translated into computer games, because there's the whole what is it, mind to hand control sort of thing. Like it's how, and that to a football is massively important. People think footballers are thick.
Yeah.
And as far as general knowledge is concerned, footballers are thick.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, they're geniuses, because they've mastered the greatest game on earth. I think it's the best game.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
subjective opinion.
But they're the best at it. And you've got to think about these footballers. There's a book called Fever Pitch, which is all about a man's love of football.
Yeah.
I recommend reading it if you're not a fan of football, because it's all about the passion and why people fall in love with football.
Yeah.
And in there, he talks about how a footballer can become a professional, and yet some big slob bloke in the stadium will be shouting, "You're shit! You're bloody shit!" if he makes a mistake.
Yeah.
And yet this guy was the best player as a kid, best player in his school team by far, best player in his academy by far before he became a professional.
Yeah.
And then he becomes a professional because a manager thinks he's good enough. He gets into that team, and then some guy who's probably achieved minimal amounts of things in life shouts you shit at this player. I've done it. I've shouted you shit at players. But that's again, the competitive nature of football and footballers and their own genius in their own way is what makes football special as well.
Yeah.
Like again, Connor, it's difficult to explain that system of going from being the best kid at school to the best footballer, but the chances of you doing that are less than 0.001%. Like,
I can appreciate that.
I think apprentice footballers, so they're footballers who have already been deemed good enough to be looked at to potentially make it as a footballer. So you're talking kids from, like my son Teddy, really good footballer. He's at an academy, and I think he's the best player I've ever seen, but then I go and watch him at an academy, and there are kids there that are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the chances of them making it are so slim. Like 99.99% of talented child footballers don't make it.
Yeah.
They don't make it. And yet at their age, they're unbelievable. They've mastered an art. They've got natural ability. And clubs they try and hone that, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But again, that's another... Like, football is such a deep thing. On the surface, it looks like a shallow thing, full of money and stuff like that. But the talent to get there is just absolutely unbelievable. And back to the point I was making, that's why a lot of footballers that I knew loved playing computer games, no matter what it was. Tomb Raider, Gears of War, Call of Duty. What else did we used to play? Rainbow Six Las Vegas. Stuff like that. Games that involve tactics and figuring things out was really good for them.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider, that's where we started on this avenue that we've gone down. Tomb Raider, the first game that I really tried to, figure. It took a lot of mine time to work things out. Like, you'd be in you'd feel like you were going down a dead end, and then you'd work it out somehow. You'd work it out. And this is what I mean. How do computer game manufacturers figure that out? How? No,
there's so much science to every aspect of making a game.
Yeah.
Like, when most people look at a game, they see the one finished product, which is the game. But then once you start to understand it, you start to see all the different sects of the game. Like, there's the 3D design, there's the textures, story, the music. There's so many different... Like, I say this a lot, but game design is like the ultimate amalgamation of every creative field.
Yeah,
just brought into
not just creative as well. Like, it's really unique because it brings creative people together with technically minded people that know how to code and stuff, and they work together in like harmony and shit. And it's like, just
level design is one of the craziest sciences behind creating a game, because there's like a psychology behind it. You need like a really good understanding.
Like, you might have noticed in some games you've been playing, right? Probably more modern games. You'll be walking somewhere and you just naturally know where you need to go because they use lighting. Like, they'll subtly light up an area and your brain just automatically wants to go towards that. And
do you know a good example of that is Doom?
Yeah.
Doom, the lighting on Doom is absolutely unbelievable.
The new one.
Yeah, well, the originals as well. Like,
I never played the originals.
Oh, the originals are unbelievable.
I played a lot of modded versions.
Yeah, but that was the same sort of thing. And that was revolutionary at the time. I know that you brought me on to talk football, and now I'm talking about my knowledge of
don't worry about it.
But Doom's engine was revolutionary. Like, pretty much every game since then is based on Doom's, like, parts of the game that were active were always a slightly different shade. And again, that's that psychological thing.
Yeah.
And because it was so pixelated back then, you look back at it now and think, well, that's really obvious. I obviously go up to this wall and push it or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't really work like that. Because people weren't familiar with that process of advancing in a game, like what you needed to do, that a wall would be a different colour. Our minds now are so far evolved into computer games, but back then it wasn't a thing that, well, if that torch on the wall is lit, obviously I need to pull that torch, it's going to open the door, and then I'm on to the next bit of the level. If you never worked that out, you'd just be stuck on that level for ages. And I used to love, and I used to play it with my dad as well, Tomb Raider. Interesting story. On the old PlayStations, you used to have a memory card that was like 1 megabyte or less, maybe. And
I was sat on a few of them as well.
I was playing Resident Evil, and I kept getting a message saying there's not enough room to save your game. So I just went into the memory card quickly, deleted Tomb Raider, thinking nothing of it, and then realised I deleted all of mine and my dad's progress.
Oh.
And that's a killer. There's no getting that back.
It's so depressing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, right, I probably told the story before, but
Yeah, you have.
on the PlayStation 2, when you boot up, there's those like white towers in there.
Yeah.
And the more you complete a game, the bigger the save file gets, the taller those towers get. Well, my save card was just jam-packed full. You couldn't fit another kilobyte onto it, and all the towers were filled right up to the top. So, like, I completed every single game I've ever played, right? 100%ed it all. And then I had this friend who had a PlayStation, and she didn't have a fucking, what is it, memory card.
Yeah.
Come home from school one day, or I was out somewhere, and my dad's like, oh, she was called Zoe, I've given Zoe one of your memory cards. And I was like, all right, cool, go upstairs. My main memory card's not in my PlayStation. I'm like, no fucking way. So I run downstairs, like, Dad, where's my memory card? He's like, I just told you, I've given it to her. So I run around to her house. She's already wiped it. I'm like,
Oh my god.
yeah, just like 3 years of my life gone. I was like,
Yeah.
That is your life on that memory card. And I mean, it's weird to think now. I mean, there might be kids listening to this or whatever that don't understand that you couldn't save a game if you didn't have one.
Yeah.
You'd have to leave your console on all day.
Dude, I had a Dreamcast with no memory card unit, and I used to play this game called Shenmue, which is like one of my favourite games of all time. I'd always get to the point where it's like, save your data and carry on, like put the next disc in, and I couldn't do it. So the next day, I just wake up in the morning, replay that whole section again, turn the bloody console off and do it again the next day.
Nightmare. Like Sega Mega Drive, my first console, couldn't save anything. You just have to leave it on.
Yeah.
So when I was addicted to a game like Sonic, so I was always like into the standard games, Sonic, FIFA, Revenge of Shinobi. I had the Power Rangers game as well. Couldn't save any of them. So like you'd have to play it for as long as possible. Leave your console on. Probably costing a fortune in electricity, and probably the reason my Mega Drives died after like 2 years and stuff like that. And then you'd go home, turn your telly on again, carry on playing it. Eventually, you would have to turn it off and think, shit. Like, I'm literally having to start this whole game again.
That's why a lot of games back then had passcodes for the levels.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't save it, so they'd be like, this is the passcode for this level, so if you wrote it down when you came back, you can just jump in from there again.
And yet when you were a kid, those passcodes, the only reason you'd ever come across those passcodes is because you were cheating. Yeah, like cheat codes were a massive part, especially when I first got Grand Theft Auto. So basically, I had a PlayStation, my house got burgled, and then, I mean, I'm not going to say my full name just in case this ever crops up, but I remember, obviously, when you get burgled, you make an insurance claim, and you say, oh, I had a PlayStation, and so when my dad had obviously sorted it out, so when I got home, I had a new PlayStation and stack of games like this, like Grand Theft Auto, the latest FIFAs. I had like the Nagano Winter Olympics, which unbelievable game. If you ever get to look it up on YouTube, Nagano Winter Olympics, fucking incredible game. Okay. Underrated. Someone stole that from me as well, actually. But
Karma.
Yeah, I mean, we're going off on so many tangents here. I'm losing my train of thought. But back to football. Back to football. So I think there we've covered the intelligence of footballers and how difficult it is to be a footballer. But the passion thing is massive for me, and I guess this is a good time to play the first clip. So this clip is from 2010. I'll tee it up for you because it's going to need some explanation for people that aren't Bradford City fans. But basically, Bradford City had been in administration twice, so we had no money. This was a few years after the last administration, so this is 2010. Stuart McCall was our manager, so Stuart McCall's this Bradford City hero. We brought him in to try and save the club, take us back up the leagues, because at the time, we were rock bottom in League 2, which is the bottom professional league in England.
Yeah.
And we were terrible. We were absolutely terrible. So we sacked Stuart McCall, which was controversial, but the right decision, because, you know, as a hero, it's always difficult to sack a hero. And then we brought in Peter Taylor. Now, Peter Taylor was a former England manager, great calibre of manager. And we thought, well, if there's anyone going to turn us around, he will. And what he brought to us was the worst brand of football I've ever seen. The worst football I've ever seen played. Had a terrible attitude towards fans. And this clip is from a match where everything came to a head a little bit, where the zit was ready to be popped. It was like, everyone was like, fucking this guy is ruining our club. Because again, that passion is not just about results on the pitch.
Yeah.
You've got to think football fans have invested time and money and energy and love, I guess, into supporting a club, doing everything. They want that club to succeed.
Yeah.
And this is me when we're losing against the team, and this guy's been managing us for a while and made us very shit. This is me reacting to, I think he'd made a bad decision, and this is me just basically giving up on life and football.
You know what? Listen to this. Headphones down.
Oh, ow! That hurt my ear.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Not only is Dom in a mood, I'm in a mood.
Cancel my subscription.
Subscription to what?
Life.
What? We're not happy. Not happy at all.
How's about doing something, Taylor, not standing there with your arms folded? Typical. I don't think it's a coincidence that we played well when all the players thought we were bloody off to Newcastle.
This is an off-mic rant by Dom.
Absolute joke.
It's bad, is this? Really
Beyond
bad.
embarrassed.
I understand that level of frustration.
Yeah, I mean, it was... so this was the first season that we'd done Bantams Banter.
Yeah.
So this is again what I mean about how football has given me so much, because I was pretty lucky that we decided to do a podcast, not because Bradford City was shit, just because I wanted to work in media. I loved football. Tom and I, Tom's the other guy on Bantams Banter who I did the show with, we were making a breakfast show, and it was just boring. We were just talking about music and playing out fucking Elton John and stuff like that. And then somebody really lucky, somebody called Peter Salmon, who's the guy who like commissioned the Royal Family on BBC. You know, the comedy show. Have you ever watched the Royal Family?
Yeah.
Jim Royal and all of that.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh no, yeah,
Royal,
yeah, I get you now. Yeah.
I can't remember any of the other characters, which is a nightmare. But anyway, this guy had commissioned that, and he'd heard our breakfast show, and we were like, fucking hell. And he emailed us and said, guys, really like what you're doing. You've got a great rapport with each other.
Yeah.
I want you to meet one of my mates at 5 Live, because I think you'd be great at sport. Because at the end of our breakfast show, we had a section called Bantams Banter where we just talk about Bradford City for a bit. Ranty, similar way to the clip you've just heard.
Yeah.
So we went to meet this guy, and he said, what you do is good, but it's all over the place. You need to find some focus. What could you do? And we said, well, we've got this bit at the end of the show called Bantams Banter where we just focus on Bradford City. And he said, just focus on that.
All right.
He said, make Bantams Banter the show. Forget the breakfast show. Drop it, because sport is clearly what you're passionate about. And if you talk about something you're passionate about, like this podcast, like your podcast, then it'll be a success. And you've got to remember, when we had this conversation with him, podcast didn't exist. Podcasts weren't a thing. So when we first put Bantams Banter on iTunes, there were maybe 100 podcasts on iTunes. Yeah. So I think Ricky Gervais was the top one. This American Life was on there, I think. So there weren't many.
Yeah.
So we were sort of at the beginning, and again, so that's lucky. But football gave us this opportunity to record a podcast. Yeah. I previously worked at Bradford City, a lot of that for free when they were in administration. So they said, we needed press box access, basically. We needed a plug and to be able to record, because there's a lot of licensing laws and stuff in football. Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah, it's fine. There's a spare seat. Bradford City was shit at the time. No one cared about them. So they said, well, yeah, by all means, record a podcast. So we did it. And as it turned out, it was one of the most stressful, awful seasons in Bradford City's history. So then people were looking for a light-hearted way to experience it and look at it and what other fans were thinking. So they came to Bantams Banter and listened to it. So the fact that Bradford City was shit was quite fortunate for us. Yeah. And it's only when things are so shit that you appreciate when things get really good. Yeah. And then you can hear on that clip, I was frustrated. I mean, again, there's a lot of luck involved in what we do, because not only am I getting really upset on that clip, and it wasn't even supposed to be broadcast, I'd taken my microphone off, I was just fucking fed up of it all. Yeah. But you can hear the fans upset as well. And it's almost like I'm just in there amongst it, and I'm just the loudest voice you can hear. Yeah. And that's the art of the podcast, and that it's part of the art of football, is that all of that was going off, and you were literally witnessing me have a breakdown that wasn't supposed to be on air, and it turned out to be one of our best clips of that year. And it was, I mean, that's boosted, the volume on that is boosted, because you couldn't really hear me. Yeah. But I think Tom was editing that one at the time, and he said, Dom, there's a clip, I want you to hear it. I think this could be a turning point for us. If people hear that, they're going to relate and get on board. Yeah. So we released it, and it was massive. It was absolutely massive for us. And then that season turned out very shit. We lost managers. We brought in another legend called Peter Jackson, who then didn't really do anything to save us. But you'll find out from my other clip soon that experiencing that level of shitness and that level of stress and despair meant that what was to come for Bradford City was the most unbelievable and exciting and appreciated time. And at Bantams Banter, we feel extraordinarily lucky that we started a podcast just in time for Bradford City to be at their shittest, and then recorded what was one of the greatest moments in Bradford City's history over the course of a few years. And there's a certain amount of luck involved in that, because we could have started the podcast today and witnessed none of that.
Yeah.
So we were really extraordinarily lucky. But yeah, that is the first of many and stress clips. There aren't any other stressed out clips actually. But if you do want to hear some of those, they're like our earliest podcasts, so like 1 to 30, I think.
Yeah.
Are where we were really upset. But some of our better performing podcasts, because I think people relish other people's despair, I think.
Yeah.
And it goes down quite well.
Yeah, it's one of the most relatable things, isn't it? Disappointment.
Yeah, totally. It's not just football, is it?
Yeah, it helps you feel like, you're not alone in your despair.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone else is like being verbal about how pissed off they are about your team performing badly, and you're like, yeah, what he said, but for me as well.
But you understood that, didn't you, Connor?
Yeah.
You understood the clip. You related to it because it's not about football. It's about my passion, and my passion fucking up right in front of my very eyes.
Yeah, no, I
imagine you're halfway through a level, you've not saved the game, your console crashes. You're gonna
I've had some difficulties lately, because you were talking earlier about achievements.
Yeah.
We collect the PlayStation version of that, and I've had like 3 games recently where I've had to put in extra effort to reach that because the game's been buggy or glitchy, and like Ash has had just an easy time through it. And that's I've had moments like that where I've just been on the couch like, oh, fucking give up. This is ridiculous.
I guess that gaming has always been this way, but through natural evolution and because of the internet and things like that, gaming is now a sport just like any other.
Yeah.
You don't need to physically exert yourself, but mentally straining and challenging.
Yeah.
That's what gaming is.
Plus, they even go through training and stuff, and they go to like training camps. And if you become a manager for an esports team, right? You just basically hire a bunch of dudes to sit in a house all day for 12 hours a day. They just play games, and you go out, you do all the laundry for them, you buy the food, you cook for them and stuff like that, and you just basically nurture them so they can end up being the best team possible, and you pit them against another team.
Yeah, it's sport. It always has been a sport, because you've always been challenging yourself. Like even if you're playing Sonic or Aladdin, incredible game. I don't know if have you ever played Aladdin on Mega Drive?
I've seen it.
Guys, get an emulator, get back to that game. It is absolutely it's weird because it's Disney characters.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense, but it's one of the best games ever.
Another game that spawned like the idea for the Prince of Persia games.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah,
just have a go at it. I mean, I've got a MacBook at home that is literally just an emulator now. I bought an 8-bit Do control pad.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really
incredible. Cool. It's like a retro Nintendo gamepad, but it's got a rumble pack in it.
Yeah,
it's got thumbsticks. Yeah, it's got the trigger buttons.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You can use it on a PS4 actually. It's class. But
I use my phone for emulation.
Really?
It's really powerful.
Yeah,
I think mine's the equivalent of yours. You've got an iPhone 10, haven't you?
Yeah.
Mine's the Android equivalent of that.
Really? So. So you can't do emulation on iPhone, unfortunately. But
you need a jailbreak.
Yeah. But
ridiculous.
I love it now because in an ideal world, I'd own all retro consoles and I'd have a big setup and I'd have them all.
Yeah.
But I don't have them anymore. Like I at the time, you didn't think of it. I know what you mean. Like when Game Station in Bradford used to be like my. I mean, again, I'm kind of falling into your bracket here. I'm talking about other. But I used to be a bit of a nerd when I was a kid. I mean,
we bring it out of people.
I always loved football, but Game Station in Bradford, and there used to be a Game Station in Shipley as well, where I used to hang out in there, and I just used to trade up. Like it used to be like, all right, the Mega Drive's kind of dead now. PS1's the latest console. I got a PS1 for Christmas. If I trade my Mega Drive in, I could get like 3 games.
Yeah, we used to do that all the time because we never had money for games. Yeah. So we'd like over time accumulate games out of like gifts and stuff like that. And then once we had enough, we could trade them in for a game that we wanted.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time.
A lot of the time because there wasn't really that much of a way to know whether the game was good or not, we'd massively regret it.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight now, it's the biggest regret ever for me, like getting rid of all my old consoles.
I don't trade in games anymore. I like to build up my library.
Yeah, you should definitely do that now. And like owning the physical copy is massively important to me. I'm not a big fan of like downloads and things like that.
I'm starting to like downloads more and more just because of the convenience of it. Every now and then I'll forget that a game I want to play is on disc, and I've got to load it up, and PlayStation's like, put the disc in, and I'm like, what?
Don't you think
drag me back in time?
Yeah, there should be. It'd be good if there was some sort of trading system though, because if you spent £50 on a game download,
I agree.
and then it was shit.
You
should be able to swap it. You should be able to like put it on a marketplace and say like, I bought the game, I don't like it. Look, let's transfer the downloads.
Yeah.
So like, but only for like. If someone else has done the same thing with a game you want, and you just swap games, I mean, I guess that might kill the industry a little bit. But the way gaming is going these days, where a lot of developers are going to be looking at Fortnite and thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's an amazing game. It's the best
Battle
game.
Royale is going to be the next big thing, isn't it?
So it is the big thing. There's PUBG,
and what's the other
Fortnite.
one? Like Person Unknown or something? Is that
PUBG, Player Unknown Battlegrounds. There's that. There's Fortnite. The new Black Ops just announced there's no solo campaign, but they're doing a Battle Royale online version. Everything's adopting Battle Royale, and it's just annoying.
And do you know what? This happened years ago with Apple. And when they developed the App Store and stuff like that, is that you pay for the phone, and then the apps are free, but the free apps have paid content in them, and that's where you're making the money. And that's where I honestly see that. That's the way computer games are going, because...
No, they're already there. Trust me.
Yeah. But like Fortnite, although graphically it's not the best game, to play it, it's probably one of the most fun games available, and it's forever evolving. Like, I don't play it, but
no, we don't.
My 8-year-old son plays it, so obviously he can explain things to me in a way that I'll understand.
Yeah.
Is he like super excited that season 4 just happened? Or
Like
a big
meteorite hit the map and stuff like that. He's 8 and he's addicted to a free game. It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's good for you.
And it's because it's free.
Yeah.
And I think I've spent like £7 for him to buy some special pack.
Yeah.
But I imagine they're making more money from parents paying £7 for their kid. Because it's a free game, but it's something in there is £7 and it'll make it better for the child.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I bet they're making more money from that than they made from the physical copy of Fortnite.
That's how it works. Bringing it back to sports, NBA was released last year, I think it was, and you bought the game for like $60, right? Mm-hmm. Then you put it in your console, and it brings up like a screen where you can buy in-game currency with real life money. And like the highest pack you could get gave you like 10 million bloody gold coins or something, and it was like $100. And it's like,
people buy it though, don't they?
Yeah. So it's much better to like make a game with microtransactions in it that continues to make money rather than just selling it the one time.
But because producing a game costs so much now that developers genuinely rely on pre-orders just to get the game finished, and then to break even, they need to introduce stuff like these in-game. Microtransactions and stuff.
In FIFA, they have the whole, like, you can make your own teams up and stuff, and you get the trading cards.
Yeah,
and
Ultimate
stuff,
Team. Absolutely cornered the market. Whoever thought of that FIFA was a fucking genius. Whoever thought, right, the football game, we've done online now, that you can't really take that much further. The big thing about FIFA was you could play it by yourself, but the great thing was getting your mates around and playing it. Now we've enabled people to play whoever they want online, meaning that abilities varied, you don't know who you're going to play. It's like playing against your mates, but you've got millions of them throughout the world. We've taken that as far as we can now. You can't better that. FIFA have absolutely fucking nailed online football gaming. So they thought, right, what else can we do? What else is big in football? Sticker collecting, football card collecting. Mm-hmm. Right, let's just make that virtual, charge for it, make people buy the game, make people play FIFA Ultimate Team, and then they did that, and it got more and more popular. Then YouTube came along, made people famous for playing FIFA Ultimate Team. So
just
then,
opening packs is enough as well
just
to get millions of views.
It sounds fucking mental, doesn't it? I don't want stickers. I'm just going to watch somebody else open packets of them. Absolutely mad. And yet, that's made people famous. That's made people millionaires through YouTube. Like, there's a guy called Spencer Owen. We worked with him, Connor. You didn't go down there, but we worked with Spencer FC. Because podcasters won't know this, but Connor and I worked together for a bit. I tried to tap into Connor's genius, but it was never appreciated, was it, Connor?
No.
And And that people are millionaires from that. So FIFA have absolutely fucking nailed it again. And through utilising what's around them. And so they've got this trading card game online, which has meant that the sticker collecting game in real life has died pretty much. Like, it's going to... Every World Cup they bring out a sticker album. This year it's going to cost you like £1,000 to fill it with stickers. Who's going to fucking do that? No one. Yeah. Especially because now FIFA are giving a World Cup game away for free. It used to be mental. You used to pay 45 quid for FIFA, and then if it was a World Cup year, another game would come out that had the World Cup teams on it, which meant the copy of FIFA you had didn't have World Cup mode on it, which is one of the best modes on FIFA before online gaming. Yeah. So then you'd have to buy the World Cup game, which 9 times out of 10 was fucking awful. Yeah. It was awful. They'd slightly changed the game engine. You'd be like, oh, fucking hell, what's the point? The World Cup lasts 4 weeks. Why have I bought this? Now they've thought, well, people are spending a lot of money with us. Let's show our fans that we appreciate them. Let's give them the game that we normally charge 45 quid for. Let's give them it for free. And you know what that is? That's a football version of Fortnite. Because people will get that World Cup game. They'll get addicted to it because it's got all the official kits on it. The World Cup's on. World Cup hysteria is one of the most beautiful things in football because the country just comes together. Normally football is like real factions. Everyone's like, I support Millwall. I support Leeds. I support Bradford. But everyone comes together for an international tournament.
Yeah, I get that.
FIFA, again, nailed it. Giving that game away for free. People are going to play against each other online on it. It's going to be like Fortnite. It's only going to last a few weeks. FIFA have realised that and realised that giving it away for a free download is unbelievable publicity. Publicity that £1 billion couldn't buy you.
Yeah.
And FIFA are making a fortune. I mean, you said there about developers trying to break even and stuff like that. EA Sports are not struggling.
No,
they can afford to do that.
No, EA are notorious.
Yeah.
Like you can't make a step in the sort of gaming world on the internet without hearing about how EA are just evil.
Yes.
I mean, that always happens when you're successful. I think that you shouldn't criticise someone like EA who have been really successful, that they've found different variants of games, not just in sport, but they also make like military games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they've been able to do that and make those games good, because without EA there'd be a lot of games that we're missing. Like FIFA on the Sega Mega Drive, the EA logo, like the EA Sports, that thing.
Yeah.
Is synonymous. Yeah, and that was the old days. Now they've evolved, they've cordoned markets, they've made games better, they continue to improve.
Yeah.
You shouldn't I mean, it's like a human nature thing, isn't it, to hate success? Again, that relates back to football.
I think the biggest problem that people have with EA is that they'll sacrifice sort of the user experience.
Yeah,
for
as a business, they're extremely successful. But like as a distributor for distributing games out to fans, they kind of fuck fans over a bit, like by putting microtransactions in games where it's not necessary. Like they brought out Battlefront 2, and that was just riddled with microtransactions. And like if it was like, you know, you can buy a few of these loot boxes and then you get fucking cosmetic shit that doesn't change anything about the game only than how you look, then fair enough, I'd be all for that. I'd probably drop shit ton of money on it. But it was like, you get items that you should have got through, you know, natural progression that would have made it much better for you to like have a, you know, better chance of killing some other dude who didn't buy the loot boxes.
Like people who paid money would have an advantage over you.
So like you say you loaded the game up and you bought like say 10 loot boxes, you opened them all up and you just got the best gear in the game because you're that lucky, and you just fucking absolutely trounced everyone else that didn't buy it. Yeah, it's just not fair.
No, that isn't. You're right. That isn't fair. You shouldn't be able, in computer games, it's always been a pretty level playing field. Money has never been an advantage.
Well,
other than the fact that you could own the game. If you had enough money, you could buy a game. You'd always have a game first. Lucky you. But gaming should always be a level playing field. Money shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, other than being able to initially own the game, money shouldn't make a difference. If you're good at gaming, you should be rewarded for that. Same as anything in life. If you're talented, you should be rewarded.
It's not just how they affect multiplayer games either. Like, one of the most famous examples is one of our favourite game series is Mass Effect. Yeah. And Mass Effect 3, they made a big portion of the game DLC, but it was already on the disc. So basically, you paid for the disc, you paid for that content, which was there, but to access that content, which included a very important character to the story, who, if you didn't have that DLC, you miss a huge chunk of the story, and half of it doesn't make sense. So you had to pay them more money just to access that part of the disc which you've already bought.
Yeah.
Which is like such a scumbag move.
Yeah.
And they do stuff like that so often.
Yeah, they call it ULC, unlockable content.
Exactly.
That is scummy. Let me tell you something even scummier that robs parents and upsets children, and that is fucking Skylander bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine buying a game and then they're like, well, there are characters, but you've got to buy the fucking physical one. Imagine getting Tomb Raider and say, well, there would be a character, but you've got to fucking buy her in physical form.
What's even worse is like, it's like, what, 40 quid for a model, and like the ones that are like, say you got a Guardians of the Galaxy one, that's super big, it'll be even more expensive than that, because it's high, like supply and demand. You scan it in your fucking game and you get a 20-minute level, and that's it.
Yeah, it's stupid. Mate, it's the shittest game as well. It's fucking.
Could you imagine dropping like 40 quid on something for 20 minutes worth of gameplay?
I'm really passionate about how shit Skylanders is, because my son got into it. He watched these fucking family on YouTube who were addicted to it.
Those videos are so cringy.
Yeah, they are awful. And their families have been made millionaires. They move into these fucking mansions, and then their dads are always fucking man children who fly drones inside and stuff like that.
More excited about the figures than the actual kids are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they need looking into those kind of people. but Skylanders is a rip-off. Like, I bought hundreds of those fucking figures, and you know what they're doing now? They're in a box propping up my monitor so that my monitor's at eye level. That's what they're doing, because you get bored of it, like kids do. But you spend a fortune on these figures at Christmas or whatever, and then you get bored, and now they're worthless. If I took those to CEX or Sex or whatever it's called, because you know what, I thought it was CEX, and I saw an advert and they said Sex, and I was like, what?
I got a 3DS from them.
Yeah.
And when I turned it on, it still had their Wi-Fi settings on there. And their modem, like the name for their Wi-Fi in store, is unprotected sex.
I'll give them that. That is quite clever. But they were like worth like 20 pence. You take those figures that you paid 40 quid for, and they're like, I'll give you 20p for that, mate.
Trading in games and stuff's just brutal. It's like you trade in like 20 games. It's like, oh, this like translates to £40 in store credit, or like 2p in the real world.
It's always been like that though. Game Station was always like that. Like, I remember taking a load of games in just because I wanted a new game. There wasn't anything I particularly wanted. I thought, I'm bored of these, I'll see what I can trade in.
Yeah.
And then you end up coming out of there with like a game called Tunnel B1. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's literally just a game where you're driving around tunnels. I couldn't figure it out, but I got it. I got it because, like, I think I got a couple of games and I had a quid credit left, and they said, well, you can have a credit. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking leave with a credit note. So I just bought the quid game called Tunnel B1. They had loads of copies of it. Fucking mental. And then I saw a video by accident on YouTube, and that game's now worth a fortune because it was made by an independent developer and stuff like that, and there weren't many copies of it. And now I want to cry into it because I think I might use it as a coaster or something like that, 'cause it's so shit. But yeah, football's the same as gaming. Football, you invest a lot of money into it because you buy a season ticket. Bradford City, by the way, unbelievable. 149 quid, you get to watch every single home game that season. That's unbelievable value. Like, because football's an expensive sport. Like, football, a season ticket at Bradford's level, you're talking about an average 400 quid. Yeah. And that's, I mean, pretty low level football. Premier League, 700 to 1,000 for a full season of football. Yeah. Which, again, when you think about it, you're watching 20 games a season. The club have got to pay for security and floodlights and things like that. It's decent value for entertainment every weekend for almost all the year. Fine. But there are loads of other things, like football shirts costing 50 quid for a child. That's a fucking rip-off. Oh, and pies being like 6 quid just because you're in a football stadium, and programmes and stuff like that. And it's really similar. There's loads of extra money you can spend on football. And
I never understood what a programme is. I thought it was like... you know, if you go to a live show and they've got a few acts on, you get like a list of what's coming on. But
a program's like, basically it's advertising. Like, they fill it with adverts.
Why do they make you pay
It's
for
got
it?
team information in there. There might be a few like crosswords for children and a poster of a footballer in there, and there's loads of statistics. Might be interviews.
If it's full of adverts, surely it's better for them to give it away for free.
Yeah, well, this is the way that it's going, because they're realising, like, so when I used to work at Bradford City, average crowd 10,000, we'd order 1,000 programmes. Because they don't sell that well.
Yeah.
But what I think is a better idea now, and if you're listening, Bradford City, by all means take this idea, is that when someone walks into the ground, they'll get a notification on their phone that says download today's programme. And that's got all the adverts in it, but it's free.
Yeah.
And all of that information, the team statistics and stuff, is just free. So, you know, like when you walk into the Tube in London, you'll occasionally get a notification that says, check out this. And if you don't want it, you just click cancel, which is what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a football game, you walk in, you get this programme for free. It's brilliant. Loads of people will look at it.
Yeah.
Your adverts are going to be more saleable because thousands of people are going to be seeing it for free.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking hell, advertising, right, bugbear of mine. I used to get Esquire magazine delivered. I was conned into the subscription somehow, but I used to quite like reading through interviews with celebs or whatever. And then you get it, and it was like 99% of it was fucking adverts. You're like, hang on a minute, why is this magazine £6 a month?
Yeah, like it's paying for itself.
Yeah,
It should be
exactly.
free.
And I can't believe that magazines still exist, to be honest, or for that reason, because they are just adverts these days. But
Yeah.
that's another avenue we really shouldn't.
It's like American Super Bowl. Like that's just riddled with ads. Like you get like was it like 90 minutes of gameplay or something stupid like that, or maybe less, and then they're over 3 hours of just adverts and trailers and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
in the past like month, the state of ads has been like shocking me more and more. Like my new Windows laptop, the start menu has ads in it. Well, the start menu has ads in it.
Really?
The Xbox One dashboard, I didn't know this before, but that has ads on it, which blows my mind. Not even really, like on PS4, if you go in the store, there's ads on there for stuff that's in the store or stuff you can do on PlayStation, like Spotify. But on Xbox One, they'll just advertise like fucking coffee or something on it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's a money orientated world. And
Well, it's really put me off going on Facebook, and I mentioned this in another episode, but like I've started getting notifications on my phone because I haven't been on Facebook for so long. Every time, well, not every time, but randomly when somebody posts a new status, like my mum or Ash's sister, I'll get a notification saying so and so has updated their status, and I'm like, stop trying to get me back on your platform.
Yeah, well, that's where they want you because it makes.
Yeah, but that's where all the adverts are. But I go on my wall now and it's 90% adverts.
Yeah.
I've just got no interest.
Well,
in
yeah,
it.
like if like 1,000 people get these notifications, they all look, and only one of them clicks. That's worth it for them.
Yeah,
because like Dom said, it's a money-oriented world.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I work in social media and content, and I do it for a big national sports broadcaster, and it just social media is a free, and it's in everybody's pockets. It's on everyone's computers. It's everybody's biggest addiction.
Yeah, it's a marketer's wet
It's
dream.
incredibly important. I mean, imagine if you take the BBC for example, public broadcaster, they must be paying millions of pounds in wages to people who literally just focus on social media because it's become that important.
Yeah.
Something that when I was at school didn't exist. And I mean, I went to school, it was like, 15 years ago since I was in high school? Fucking hell. I mean, even there, it wasn't even called high school then, it was grammar school.
Yeah.
But it didn't exist. Social media wasn't a thing.
When I was in school, we had MySpace and
I had a MySpace page.
my yearbook, I think, was the one I used.
Bebo.
Bebo as well, yeah, Jesus.
When I was in sixth form, my last year of sixth form, social media did enter a little bit, and it was called Face Party. And you literally just set up a profile with your name and what you're into and all that shit, and then
What you were into?
what
kind of website is this stuff?
when I first left, when I left sixth form, I think it was a year later, MySpace came out, and it was massive, wasn't it? Like it was an explosion, and
Huge, yeah.
you could, if you had any sort of coding knowledge, you could change what your background looked like.
Yeah.
You could just put your favourite music track on, which again I think that's a pretty good feature, being able to put like a music track on. That's great promotion for the bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean that's dead, and Facebook would never. And I remember someone trying to tell me, I visited a friend at uni and he said, "Oh, you need to get on this Facebook thing. Everyone's on it." And I was like, "No, you can't even put your own music on it. What is the point?"
I had the same reaction. Like, I can't make my own background. I can't change the font. What the hell?
All the shit this is, and now it's massive anyway. But
did you ever see that? Sorry,
no, it's alright.
Did you ever see the tweet where the guy was called Tom Money who made MySpace?
Yeah.
Where someone's like, "I can't believe how much of a failure Tom was," or something. And he tweeted back at him like, "Yeah, but I sold MySpace for like $1 billion or something."
Yeah.
Like, who's the real failure?
Because it wasn't him that failed, it was it? It was when he sold it to a consortium that involved Justin Timberlake and was it? Or am I getting mixed up with the film? No, it's definitely real life. I think Justin Timberlake was in the consortium that bought MySpace, and was it part of Napster and stuff? Anyway,
right.
it went tits up.
Napster.
And now MySpace, although it still exists, I think is shot. But anyway, what sort of tangent is this we've gone off on?
Yeah, that happens all the time, man.
Back to football. I guess we should move on to the positive aspect of what Bantams Banter was now. And I think the next clip we should listen to is when Bradford City played Aston Villa. Now, I'm going to have to big this up massively for you because it's a hell of a long story. But 2 years before, we were in the situation where I lost my mind on the last clip we heard.
Yeah.
And then things started to get better. We brought in a manager called Phil Parkinson, who Tom and I had never heard of, and we were slagging him off at first, and then turned out to be one of Bradford's best managers ever. And things started to improve, which is you start appreciating it more. Then you think, well, we've been so shit that even when we're mediocre, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then the 2011-2012 season, I think it was 11-12. Was it 12-13? 12-13. We really started to improve, and there's a cup called the Football League Cup, which is where all teams in the Football League, so Premier League down to League 2, challenge for a trophy.
Yeah.
Called the Football League Cup, or the Capital One Cup as it was at the time. And Bradford City, still a shit team. We were still in League 2, which is the bottom league of English domestic football, professional football. We did really well in the Capital One Cup final. Like, we were beating big teams. So we beat Arsenal, who, Connor, a big Premier League team. You'll know this. Your dad supports them.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was massive.
My dad was talking about it.
It was massive. We podcasted with Alan Davies, the long-haired, curly-haired guy from QI.
Yeah.
So it was a really big deal, like for Bantams Banter. So we'd been thrust into the limelight, basically. So BBC and stuff wanted to do interviews with us. We were loving it. We were thinking we were like fucking Beckham or something, levels of popularity. And so we beat Arsenal in the quarterfinals of the trophy, which again, getting to the quarterfinals, having beaten Wigan, who at the time were a Premier League team as well, was just extraordinary. It's like unthinkable. Like it's literally unthinkable. It's like David and Goliath, where in real life Goliath would have just fucking stood on David and carried on with the rest of his day. This is what was happening. Bradford City were beating billionaire teams. It just shouldn't happen in football. So imagine going from us being as shit as we were on that first clip to then beating all of these teams, getting to the semi-finals and thinking, well, we've got no chance, but fucking hell, we've made it to the semi-finals of a trophy. This is incredible. And then Aston Villa came to Bradford City and we beat them really convincingly. It's like, it was like a dream. It's like fucking impossible. What was happening? Honestly, if you're not a football fan, what was happening was fucking impossible. City were shit, Aston Villa were Premier League, and we beat them convincingly. It was 3-1 at the time. But in the semi-finals, you've got to play two legs, so you play one at your own ground and one at theirs. We beat them convincingly at Valley Parade in front of a big crowd, and then we had to play them away. And you think, well, they've got a goal, so the aggregate scores are added up. We beat them 3-1. You go back to their place, they score a goal, and you think, fuck, they're going to beat us now because they're the Premier League team. They're at home. They've got the momentum. They should win. If we just needed to score one goal, and you knew, we're going to do it. So we got to Aston Villa, knowing we'd lose, knowing there's no chance, but let's fucking enjoy it. Villa Park is one of the most beautiful football stadiums, by the way. It's unbelievable. It's my favourite ground, actually. It's a really retro, sort of like 90s football for me is the pinnacle of football, and it reeks of that. So I went there. Bantams Banter again have recorded all of this, so we're heavily involved in the history, which is nothing we could have ever... We did Bantams Banter so we could keep ourselves ticking over while we were trying to make a career in media. And so we got to Aston Villa. We were overexcited. And knowing we'd lose but still wanting to enjoy it. It was snowing. It just had everything. Bradford City fans were in fine voice. Like the singing of the crowd, like male voice choirs, for me, I love listening to a male voice choir. Sounds weird, I know, but there's just something that rings through my body when you hear something like that. But football crowds, when they're passionate, when you're winning, when you're just in it for the moment, is one of the best things you can ever hear. And we got to Villa Park and we were lucky we were in there, Tom and I getting really excited, and Bradford City were winning. We were not winning. We'd gone into the game winning, and Aston Villa scored, and you think, shit, we're gonna lose. And then James Hansen, who was a hero now at Bradford City, scored a goal that meant we knew we were going to win. And hopefully this clip somehow gets across exactly what we were feeling there. I think it's the longest clip I've seen. It's a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But it's worth listening to just to pick up on how that feels. And while you're listening to it, think about how bad I felt during that first clip, and this is a couple of years later.
This is it, folks. We're 90 minutes away from Wembley. Those feelings you're feeling, we're feeling. Those butterflies in your stomach that are turning into fucking dragons, we've got them as well.
I have got a beast in my stomach right now.
I am shaking like a shitting dog stood on a single ice cube balancing on one claw.
Whilst holding the most fragile of chocolate bars, a flake. A cross comes in from Zogbia, and Benteke kind of toe prods it into goal.
I cannot take it. I genuinely want to cry.
31-0, go get another one. Corner.
Yes, here it comes. It's a corner. It's time for the commentary wrap. Are you ready?
Oh shit, don't hang on.
Right, here we go. Come on.
It's not plugged in.
Okay, so we might have missed this.
We're not going to score anyway. I mean, I won't really worry about it, mate. Dom in the house with T Villa Park.
Ball comes in from Jones. Just... Help! It is Bradford City 4, Aston Villa 2, and we've taken a goal from the grasp of Aston Villa. And sometimes, when you are under the cosh, you sometimes say, fuck the cosh. Fuck the cosh! Oh my God! It is Bradford City 4, Aston Villa 2. We have the away goal, Luke.
No, but I'm actually... Come on, ref! You're blooming Durkin! I can feel veins popping.
It's back in our area. They're just launching it. This is relentless. Out!
What was that?
Yes! We're going! Come on! Get it! Get it! Yes! Get it!
Now there's people behind us, Dom. Calm down, there's people behind us.
Sorry.
Oh my God! Sorry.
Bradford City have beaten Aston Villa in the semi-final second leg. It's Bradford City 4, Aston Villa 3. Come here. Bradford City win, and we are staring the gods of football in the face. Bradford City, a team that is a bottom division team, are going to Wembley. We are going to Wembley.
Wow. There's a lot of...
It's a bit intense, isn't it?
yeah, very raw emotion there.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm getting tingles thinking about that, and it's easy for me because I was there, and reliving that is the best thing ever for me. But the reason, I guess, that a lot of that stood out for Bradford City fans, that when people talk to us about the podcast now, that is the game that they go to, and things became like "fuck the cosh" became a catchphrase that fans used and stuff like that. But it was impossible. I was witnessing the impossible happen, and I just couldn't control myself. Fortunately, the night before, me and my wife Susie, we'd been to see Les Mis, the film version, and there's loads of like, I was staring the god in the face, and that's what I use. That's what I said. We're staring the gods of football in the face, because I'd seen that, and I'm when I go to see films, I'm the guy that comes out, and I've seen Spider-Man, and I'm like throwing the thing away. I totally get immersed in movie world for a while. And I was still in that mode when I was at that game, but I think I feel like you're starting to understand what something like that can mean to somebody, because it's football. I know you're not a football fan, but you can relate to anything. You can relate that to anything. If you're, I don't know, imagine you're a professional gamer, you get to a final that you shouldn't be in, like you're playing a game you're not familiar with, and yet you somehow get to the final. And that was just, Bradford City were going to Wembley. It was a major cup final. League Two teams just don't do it. It's the first time in history that had ever happened that a team as shit as us had made it that far. And again, it's luck. Bantams Banter was lucky that we were recording at the time, and now I'm fortunate enough to be able to listen back to that and show my kids that when they're older and stuff like that. That I was there witnessing this history. I wasn't just a fan. I was able to record this and listen back to it. But there are things there that make Bantams Banter unique. I think there are things that when I look back on it now, I'm really proud of them. Like the way we describe how we're feeling is just like off the cuff remarks, but like quite fun and unique, and I think that's why it stands out a little bit. At the time, you don't realise it. At the time, you think, well, it must just be standing out because Bradford City are doing so well. But like the commentary rap, what the fuck is that? We start like when there's a set piece is basically you can kind of predict where the ball's going to go, so you can. So we said, well, why don't we just rap it? You know, it's boring. No one else does it. And when it works, like a lot of the time, it don't work. Like you do a commentary rap and like the corner just goes out for a throw in, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But when they score a goal, and again, how lucky is that? One of the greatest goals in Bradford City's history. We're fucking rapping it to some Snoop Dogg backing music, and it goes in, and now it's one of our most famous clips.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely not ashamed. I mean, people send us comments saying, "Oh, I can't believe you all you do is scream, blah blah blah." I'm not ashamed of when Bradford City score an important goal that I fucking lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember doing that when I was there. I remember cuddling Tom. I remember there was a famous footballer sitting behind us called Stan Collymore, and he was really pissed off at the fact that me and Tom were like front row seats fucking giving it some. I couldn't give a shit. Honestly, could not give a shit. I was absolutely loving that moment. And what I've learned as I grow older is not to give a shit what other people think. Just enjoy your life. If people think you're a fucking nerd because you spend a lot of time doing computer games, so fucking what? More fool. They obviously feel some sort of anger because you enjoy doing what you do. Fuck them there. It's their life that's miserable, not yours. Not your life. Like when something's successful, like Bantams Banter, and although it's not like fucking billions of downloads, it was, you know, we got to number 1 on iTunes and stuff like that. When you're successful, you put yourself out there for people that criticise you, and sometimes people just genuinely don't like your content. Fine, that's always going to happen.
Yeah.
People are not going to like this podcast. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? You enjoy making it, don't you?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't monetize any of it. We just purely do it as like for fun.
Exactly. That's exactly what Bantams Banter was, and I was just lucky enough that it was successful and that I got to record my podcast at some of the biggest moments in the club I love's history.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky. I don't think it was hard work editing it. You stay up till 2 a.m. editing videos and stuff like that. I put the shift in, but I'm not daft. There's a lot of luck involved there. But I just loved doing it. You get a lot of criticism. You get a lot of people that feel like they have to tell you how shit what you do is, or how much of a dickhead you are. But literally, I used to take it really personal. I used to hate it. I used to get really sad about it. Now it's just water for ducks back. Sometimes I caught the controversy. I caught people telling me I'm a dickhead because it's good for engagement, isn't it? The more engagement I get, the more I can sell it as advertising.
You've told me a couple of great stories about like things fans have said to you and stuff.
Yeah, like, so once I was leaving work, so I used to work in central Leeds, and a Leeds fan shouted, "You fucking Bradford City dickhead!" And my initial thought was, that's quite cool, isn't it? Like a Leeds fan recognises me. Then I feared for my life and ran back to the office and just waited for an hour for it to disappear. But I mean, you get stuff like that. You get fans that say you're a dickhead. You know, you get loads of stuff on Twitter. I've had stuff where, recently we released an interview with Bradford City's chairman. Yeah. You get people saying, "Oh, you're a dickhead. You know, you're playing into the hands of the club, whatever." So fucking what? I love the club. Of course I am. I support Bradford City. They give me unbelievable access. I get to know things that I wouldn't know if I was a normal fan. Of course, I'm fucking caught in it. I love it. Absolutely love it. And it is horrible. I did used to get really sad about it. I did used to hate it, but now I don't care anymore. I don't care. If it ever got to the point where, because now I don't do the podcast, and it's time for me to take my son to football. He started to really love Bradford City, and I'm really proud of that fact that I can share that with my son, which is what fathers want, isn't it? Not just in football. If your son shares your passion, fucking hell, you've absolutely smashed it. So I decided I'll stop Bantams Banter now. We've had our day. Oh, I spat then. We've had our day. It was brilliant. We're probably never going to top it. Let's just pass it on to our kids now. Yeah. And I love doing that. I love going to Bradford City. We filmed a couple of vlogs and the reason I did that is because Teddy watches a lot of vlogs on telly, and he's always saying to me, "Dad, I want to be a vlogger. I want to be on YouTube." And he's 8, and I don't want him to do that. But because Bantams Banter was at the tail end, I said, "Well, I'll just do it with you." Yeah. So I took my phone camera, held it at arm's length, did a few vlogs, and they did really well. And I've just done that a couple of times for him. For him, he wants to. Yeah. And imagine when I'm like 60 and he's when I'm 60, what? In fact, I was quite a young dad, so Teddy would be like 40 when I'm 60 or something. But imagine watching those back together when we're both adults, when he's like a 20-year-old going to watch Bradford with his dad still, hopefully. Yeah. Touch wood. I've got a terrible diet, so I might die before then. But imagine watching those back and you think, oh, that's amazing. That's amazing, isn't it? We can watch that back. I mean, for me, that's what YouTube's all about, and that's why I film a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not a vlogger, I'm not Casey Neistat or whatever, but I like to film a lot of things because I want to be able to watch them. So, like, for instance, Teddy yesterday was playing in a football tournament. First time ever he's won a tournament, like finished, got medals, trophy and things like that. I filmed it because I want him to be able to relive that moment. I mean, I won things when I was a kid and there's no video of it because people didn't just carry cameras around with them every minute of every day. Yeah. Whereas now I can show him those moments. I know that pride's supposed to be one of the fucking sins or whatever Christians say about it, but bullshit. You should be proud of your achievements. You should totally, like, people think we got cocky about Bantams Banter and stuff like that, but it's not that. It's just that when you become successful and you get more used to talking to people and you get more used to getting a bit of attention, you just fall into it being like you get used to it and you get better at dealing with it. Yeah. But I still like to listen back to those clips because I'm proud of what happened. Like when we got to number 1 on iTunes, that's fucking screenshotting the shit out of that. I've still got the screenshots because
I would as well. That's my desktop wallpaper. That
I don't ever want to forget shit like that. I take pictures of everything. That's really cool. I think that in your life in general, you should, if there's stuff you're proud of, be fucking proud of it. Yeah. Who cares that people don't like you boasting and things like that? I could not give a flying fuck about other people and what other people think. I've done something I've achieved. I want to relish it. I want my mate to relish it. I've done it with a friend. Like you two guys, you do this podcast because you've both got similar interests. If it's a success, you've shared that success. There's no better thing in life than sharing a success with somebody. And what other people think about you sharing that is fucking bollocks. Who cares? Who cares? Like, Tom and I relish that moment all the time. And I want to share it with my son, and I want his successes I want him to be proud of it. I want him to be proud of what he achieves. And that's a massive part of sport. It always was. And now there's all this politically correct bullshit and all people saying stuff on Twitter about, oh, you shouldn't share pictures of your successes, that's just boasting. Fuck off. Just because you're a failure, fuck you. I don't care. Why should I care? And so I'll always be proud of that. I'll always want to talk about Bantams Banter if someone asks me. Yeah. I don't care if someone thinks I'm a dick, so what?
No, yeah.
I am.
Just find what you love and throw yourself into it.
Exactly.
So was it Charles Bukowski who said that? I'm probably paraphrasing it and butchering it, but he's like, find what you love and let it kill you.
Yeah. Richard Feynman.
I like that. I've never heard that, but I like it.
Yeah. It's a great...
Dude, Charles Bukowski is an absolute bro. On his tombstone, it just says, don't try.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? I can understand that because some people try really hard to be a success and they're not success and torture themselves. Whereas if you just try doing something that you're passionate about, it's going to be shit when you first start it, but it'll evolve. And if you work hard at it, I genuinely believe you'll make a success of it. Success is gauged by yourself.
Yeah.
Bantams Banter's nothing now. No one listens to it now. It doesn't get any downloads, but at the time, it was massive for us.
Oh, why did we bring you on a show then?
Yeah. But, I mean, to be fair, we did an interview with the Bradford City chairman recently that's been really successful.
Yeah.
But we don't do the podcast anymore.
No, yeah.
And it was a massive success back then, and fine, good. But comparatively speaking to what podcasts are now, it was nothing.
Yeah.
But I gauge Bantams Banter to have been a success because I started something from nothing with my friend. We were like-minded. We agreed with each other's ideas, and we made the show a success, which is what you two are going to do. It'll happen if you keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, saying what you were saying about success being gauged by yourself, sort of thing. We get like 2 or 3 downloads per podcast, and the YouTube views are usually less than the actual podcast downloads. But we're coming up on our 50th episode very soon.
Yeah.
And that is like the achievement that I'm waiting for. That's the first bronze trophy.
Yeah.
And that's a success for me. Even if nobody had listened to it, like just the fact that I've got those conversations that we've had.
Yeah.
Those sort of like collections of our opinion on things. for us to go back at and cringe about and what have you.
Yeah,
so.
totally. And you know what? Your first episode was probably shit. You'll listen back to it now and think, oh my god. I do the same with everything I've ever done. Everything. Every new project I start, the first one is always shit. Yeah. But you evolve into it. You evolve into making it better. You find new styles. Definitely. It's always by accident as well. Always. You try too hard, you'll fail. But if you just let it happen, if you take a gauge of public interest in it and think, well, maybe if we change that a little bit. Because one thing that I personally think I did quite well with Bantams Banter was marketing it and capitalising on the success. So when it's a bit successful, I'll make it sound even more successful than it is. And we managed to jump on a lot of things. Like we turned Bantams Banter into a legit retail business. Like we sell phone cases and towels and things like that.
Yeah.
Because I saw a gap in the market and I pounced on it. That's what you've got to do. Don't try too hard. Just find something that will be an avenue for you to take. You try too hard, genuinely people can tell. It's better to just look at this podcast. Just walked into a room and got cracking.
Yeah.
And we've taken loads of different routes, and it's exactly the same way for all content. See what works, work out what works. The only thing that can hold you back is not criticising yourself and not finding a way to capitalise on something.
Yeah.
But most people can spot those things. It's the same in football. To get back to what we were trying to podcast about, it's exactly the same in football. Footballers will play to the best of their own abilities and they'll try to succeed, and a manager will get them in a change rooms and give them tactics and say follow these tactics. But it's always about that footballer's own creativeness. It's always about how that footballer can succeed in his own right. Yeah, he's got tactics from a player, but games are often won by individual brilliance from a footballer doing something of his own accord. Like Ronaldo clearly doesn't get on very well with his teammates. Never, when they score, he doesn't really celebrate with them.
Yeah.
But he's his own toughest critic, and if it's not him scoring the goal, he's pissed off. And it's not the best way to be in life. You can't be very happy, I imagine.
No.
But that's what he gauges to be a success. If it's not him that scored the goal, he's pissed off. I'm not going to hate on a guy that wants to be as successful as he possibly can do whilst he's still a professional. Football career is so short.
Yeah.
It's really short. And people say, oh, well, you're all right, you're set for life, you've got a load of money. That's just that's not the footballer's fault, is it? That it's great for them. They've got a load of money. It's not his fault. If someone's going to throw money, if someone threw money at me just for fucking chatting, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll have it. And then people are like, oh, dickhead, all he does is talk and he gets loads of money. That's the same for a footballer.
Yeah.
Gets a load of money. He's not going to say no, is he? He's going to say, actually, no, mate, it's all right. I'll do it for a tenner. It's not going to happen. And he's got a load of money, but it's not about that. When you're a genius, and the best footballers are geniuses in their own way. They're a genius in the same way Einstein was a genius. Einstein was shit at football, but you don't say, well, he's thick as fuck.
Well, you don't,
Einstein, do you?
Don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of my favourite things going around the internet. The picture of all the animals at the bottom of the tree. Love that. That's exactly that. Everybody finds their own way.
Yeah, exactly.
People, when I was growing up at school, success was gauged on what your exam results were. And life up until then was, what your exam results were, you're going to be an accountant or a solicitor or you're a failure. It's not the way life is anymore. Yeah. You can make a success of your own life even if you were a fucking failure at school. In fact, a lot of the most successful people were shit at school. Loads of people threw their lives away at school and then worked their way out.
Yeah.
Like when I read a lot of autobiographies from people in media and football, most of them were like, oh, I grew up in poverty on a council estate, but I endeavoured to achieve something.
Yeah.
I worked hard as a footballer to train and eat well, and my dad encouraged me. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what your background is. That class system is gone. It's completely gone. I mean, the royal wedding, I guess, proves that wrong a little bit. The royals are still there, and you know what? I'm not a royalist, but I do quite like the royal family. I like that it's there, and I like English tradition and stuff like that. But
the only reason we knew that the wedding had happened was because the fucking bell tower in the middle of town rang out for 15 fucking minutes.
Yeah, you don't live that far from it, do you either? So that must be a bit of a
It's just like 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I get, but I don't hate that it's there. People say it costs the taxpayers money. It fucking doesn't. The royal fund pays for it. Royal tourism brings billions in a year, stuff like that. So
Americans love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're there, and I'm not against them at all. They're there. No, I didn't watch it yesterday.
I'm like impartial. I'm apathetic towards it. Or like they're there. I don't really. I'm not interested.
I mean, it's pomp and circumstance in it. It's like when I mean, I don't make a habit of doing it, but when I've seen like the Parliament on news and they walk up to the door and they hit it with that big gavel, you're like, oh, fucking come on, mate. You don't need to do that. Just fucking walk in. What's the difference these days? But anyway, I'm a big fan. You should. I like British tradition. I mean, we always say, oh, this country does this country does that. They do that better than us. But nobody does pomp and circumstance better than England. And Americans love it. It's something that you should really be proud of as an Englishman, I guess. That, I mean, look, that's fucking thousands of years old and it's still there. What other country can boast that?
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
I really enjoy our like British ability to just complain about anything and everything.
Yeah,
including yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's no better self-critic than a British person.
Like, just a few months ago, I was complaining about how cold it is, and now I'm like, I'm sick of
way
being
too
warm.
I'm so sick of being warm. Yeah,
it is too hot, isn't it?
I
But
just love it.
I mean, God, I literally do not know what you're going to call this podcast because it was about me trying to sell football to you, and now it's everywhere. I'll tell you what. Next, we'll do local rivalry, because that's another facet of football that fascinates me, that makes football great, and it's a weird concept that I think only really exists in sport. But Bradford and Leeds, for instance, Leeds have always been a better team than Bradford. There's no denying. They've always been in a higher league.
Well, Leeds has always been like arguably a better city.
Yeah,
Bradford.
I mean, whoever's
it's bigger, it's got more shops, it's nicer, it's cleaner, etc., etc.
Whoever's running Bradford at the minute is fucking it right up.
I appreciate living in Bradford for what it is. I've got all the accoutrement of living in a big city.
Yeah.
But it's quiet. Like, sure, fair enough, there's a lot of homeless people and there's a lot of aggressive homeless people and drunkards and, you know,
I'll be honest with you, mate.
The people
if
in
I was
Bradford.
homeless, I'd be fucking drunk and mad as well.
Yeah. But there's a lot of unpleasant people in Bradford. Not just homeless, but there are a lot of homeless people.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big argument of mine, actually, is that a big problem in Bradford is the people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of heritage in Bradford, like you were saying. Bradford was once one of the richest cities in the country. The buildings are still there, and they're incredible buildings. Like the building we're in now is like a beautiful, Edwardian, Victorian building on the outside.
They've made steps to preserve it. Like,
Yeah.
we've got those big, stupid, single glaze windows with pulley systems either side of them, which are fair enough, but they're cold, and they don't keep the noise out at all. It's very loud in the apartment. But yeah, they've made an effort to keep that aesthetic there, which fair enough, you can appreciate that on some level.
And I've spoken to my dad about this before, because my dad lived in Bradford all his life. I've moved about here and there, but I've always been close to Bradford. Met my wife in Bradford, met Tom, who I do the podcast with in Bradford, worked at the Media Museum, worked for the football club, used to hang around in Bradford with my mates at school and stuff like that when HMV and Virgin Megastores were here, and the Odeon, used to go to the Odeon to watch films. And,
my dad used to be a projectionist at that Odeon, which is now closed down because it's a hive of asbestos.
It was a beautiful cinema. I'd love to be able to go back there. It was incredible, and it just went to rack and ruin, but it's been saved now, sort of. But Bradford now is just not what it was. It's like, it's a real shame to look at it, and it's really run down. The only thing they've been able to do is build a fucking shopping centre that completely changed the centre of Bradford.
It's quite nice though.
The shopping centre's good. Yeah,
it's done a lot of good things for Bradford as well.
Yeah,
you can feel the change.
But you've got to. It's not like Manchester or Leeds where they can afford to build shopping centres everywhere and people will go to them. Yeah. Bradford has always been, let's build Foster Square. Shit, it's killed the high street. We need to get people back into the centre. Yeah. Right, let's build a Broadway. Oh no, now that's killed Foster Square and the high street is still dead. So it's really poorly managed, Bradford. But it's a city of great heritage. City Hall's incredible. Yeah. The history of Bradford is really incredible. But it's been let down by a lot of the people that live here, whether they moved here or people have just given up. I don't know, but it's a real shame because there are a lot of independent people. Like, I know a lot of people that own bars on North Parade, the Record Cafe.
Yeah, the best bars in Bradford are up there, like the Sparrow and
the Sparrow. Les at the Sparrow was one of the innovators on North Parade. He first saw the potential up there.
Yeah.
Then Keith at the Record Cafe followed suit, and there's a lot more there. Some people tried to take advantage of it, like a chain opened a bar up there, and it failed because that's not what people want up there.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people doing a lot of individually good work. There are a lot of independent people who are still passionate about Bradford, trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like there was the Woodland project or whatever it was, where they turned Marks and Spencer's into an indoor woodland, and that group of people there are trying hard to show the potential of Bradford. But you're fighting a losing battle when 3/4 of the people couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, that's another subject we've covered. But yeah, passion and local rivalry. Leeds, better team, but Bradford fans dislike them for whatever reason. Maybe it's because they've always been better than us. Maybe it's because they're fucking scummy twats. Who knows? But Bradford tend to lose to Leeds. And on this next clip, Bradford came to Valley Parade. They're not the nicest bunch of fans. We don't get on very well with them.
You mean Leeds came?
Leeds came to Valley Parade. Leeds fans, we normally lose to Leeds, but this time we dominated them. Then they scored a goal, and we were all fucking pissed off. And then another Bradford City miracle happened. We were still managed by Phil Parkinson, who was the bringer of all miracles. Yeah. So things that normally didn't happen at Bradford City happened under Phil Parkinson. And this clip from when Bradford City played Leeds is another one, and a warning. It's quite passionate and quite sweary.
No, don't worry about that on it.
This is Leeds United's
biggest game.
It is.
This is the biggest game in Leeds United history.
It's their cup final. This is their chance to regain some sort of credit and recognition as an actual football club rather than a joke.
No! No! No way! That is the wind out of your sails right there.
What am I just saying?
That is awful. 8 minutes left.
And that is literally the first shot they've had on target.
And it's a Bradford City corner. We've got to respond to that goal now, boys. Be heroes. The Leeds fans, look at the state of them. They stink.
Hit that, hit it, hit it.
Fucking Billy Nutt! Billy Nutt! Fucking Billy Nutt! Fucking Billy Nutt! Billy Nutt! Billy Nutt! Billy Nutt! Look at the Leeds fans! The Leeds fans were singing, let's go fucking mental!
My God.
We'll have that! It's Bradford City 1! Leeds 1! And that's what happens when you knock a Bantam down! They get straight back up and claw the fuck out of here!
What a goal by Billy Nutt! I will have your children if I could.
Oh my God! Yes! Just scored! Oh my God! Yes! It's Aston Villa all over again! Come on! It's Bradford City 2! Leeds United 1!
What a day.
There's like a strange sect of improv comedy that only comes out of moments like that where you're not even intending to say anything funny, but then you listen back to it and you're like, scratch your fucking eyes out.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't until afterwards that I realised how factually correct that actually is.
Yeah.
That Bantams fighting chickens,
yeah,
that is probably what they'll do.
Yeah.
But that just shows what football means to people. The local rivalry is just another romantic thing about football that makes it so. It's just great how
you were like, look at the Leeds fans, they stink.
Well, do you know, I'll admit there is an element of saying stuff like that just for the sake of the podcast because it adds to the entertainment value, I guess. But at the time, I meant it. I didn't mean it. I was really fucked off with them because they'd scored this goal, but.
And they were smug about it.
Yeah, exactly. They were started singing like they'd scored that goal and they were like, let's go fucking mental. And then they were smashing up the seats in the stadium, so they got what they fucking deserved as far as I could see. But again, those tiny things, it's the small things that make the big story.
Yeah.
Leeds, Bradford City dominating, Leeds scoring that late goal, Leeds fans then milking it, smashing up the stadium, singing chants to try and antagonise us as other fans, and then we beat them. You can't. You can never write something like that. And football is probably the only sport that offers that. You don't get that in rugby. You don't get that in tennis. You don't get that anywhere other than football. And as we said 2 hours ago, I think it was at the start of the podcast.
We're coming up on an hour and a half.
Yeah, an hour and a half now.
As we said then, the violence in football is horrible. It's the worst bit about it.
Yeah.
But when you're able to not be violent but be passionate at each other without actually hitting each other, it's like being the dog on the leash that's barking and barking and barking, but then when you're off the leash you're like, no, I won't do anything. It's that similar sort of thing for us. And that's one of the main reasons I love football, is that passion that things can happen to you that shouldn't. I mean, Bradford City are back in a rut again now, but I'm not getting too upset about it.
Yeah, I saw you posted on Twitter, like you were live tweeting this mass walkout. Everyone just left the stadium.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
That's football. I mean, I've never walked out of a football game. That was the first time I walked out. Shame on me. Smacked wrist and all that. But that's just a part of football. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down.
Yeah.
You go down and then you appreciate the highs again. I honestly believe, genuinely, Bradford City is the best football club to support because you get everything. We've been in the Premier League, so we've witnessed the best of football. Because of that, we played in Europe, which it wasn't the best tournament in Europe. It's called the Intertoto Cup, but we still played in Europe. Lithuania we went to, and Russia. So we played in Europe.
Yeah.
We got to the Premier League. The whole process of getting there, finishing second in the Championship or Division 1 as it was then. Incredible. So we witnessed promotion, which was a last day promotion. So promotion on the last day of the season. Yeah. Incredible. We've witnessed going bust.
What a shocker.
Yeah, we've witnessed being at the very bottom and at the top. We've won the league in 1985, so a horrible year for us, 1985. The fire, 56 people lost their lives, but things like that galvanised fans. So we're not lucky that happened, of course. That's totally the wrong phrase, but following that galvanised fans. Bradford City fans are a close-knit. We always get
we took a bad thing, turned it into a good thing.
Yeah. We're a really close-knit set of fans. Yeah. We won the league that year, so that very day that the Bradford Fire happened, before the match, the players were parading around with a trophy. Absolute unspeakable nightmare that must have been. Yeah. People died after watching the best moment in Bradford. Yeah. I think it was the first time we'd ever won a league, so fuck me, unbelievable. But we've witnessed everything. We won the FA Cup in 1911. Fine, nobody alive now saw it, but an incredible moment. And it's a bit dodgy because the FA Cup was designed and manufactured in Bradford by Fattorini's jewellers. Fattorini was a famous Italian jeweller. That's where my granddad did his jeweller training with Fattorini. But that's where the FA Cup was designed and made. Incredible. We won it. A bit dodgy, but so what? We won the best cup competition in what I think is the world, but definitely in England. And then, we've experienced that cup run. We've experienced being shit and beating the best. Yeah. We've experienced changing managers, having heroes. We've experienced getting far in cups. With the David and Goliath thing, we've experienced it all. We've got the full spectrum. No other club's got that. Bradford City is 100% the best team to support in the world. But I'll argue that out with anybody. I'm not bothered about winning 10 Premier Leagues or anything like that. It'll get boring. Yeah. I want to experience football in its entirety, and Bradford City are the only club in the world to offer that. And a prime example is this next clip. Bradford City playing Chelsea. Chelsea that year went on to win the Premier League, the best league in the world. We were in League One, so the second worst professional league in English football. And we went down to Stamford Bridge expecting to lose. We did start losing quite heavily. We were 2-0 down in the first half, and we thought, well, this was to be expected. But again, we're at Stamford Bridge, let's enjoy it. Then the fucking unthinkable happened, and you'll hear it all in this clip.
We're at Stamford Bridge.
It's the bantamweights against the heavyweights.
Outside of the foot pass into Stead. What's Stead going to do with it? Oh my God! Oh my God! What am I seeing?
4-2!
What am I seeing?
It's 4-2 to Bradford City with fist pumping. Oh my God! Oh my God, it's actually real. Pinch me. Punch me in the face. Is this real?
Actually, no, that was the fourth goal we scored. So, in that game, Bradford City were 2-0 down against the best team in the country. So, you're not going to get back into it. Then, before the stroke of half-time, we scored a goal and it was 2-1. You think, why? We've scored a goal away. That's great. We've scored a goal against them. Fine. Bearing in mind, Chelsea had never lost at home under their current manager. So, it was, we were talking like 40-odd games that they hadn't lost. And we were a team that they really shouldn't lose to. And then during the second half, we scored a second goal to make it 2-2. The person that scored that goal was released by Chelsea when he was a kid. So there's another piece of romantic football knowledge for you. That Philippe Moraes scored this goal to make it 2-2. Then, obviously, we've got the momentum then. We're 2-0. Then we scored a third goal. Great goal. Andy Halliday, this player who was in and out of the Bradford City squad, scored an absolutely banging goal from outside there, a 3-2. We're winning at Stamford Bridge against a team that don't lose at Stamford Bridge. Then we scored a fourth goal and it cemented the fact we were going to win, and you're just like, what the actual fuck? I can't believe this is happening again, because not long before, the 1 in a million cup run had just happened. So, I mean, I've run out of superlative to describe how good a period of time that was for Bradford City. But again, the tiny things, the small facets of what make football amazing were there.
Yeah.
The player scoring against his former team, Bradford beating a team they shouldn't beat, me and Tom being in the press box where we shouldn't have been as not very professional journalists. When we scored the third goal and Tom and I were celebrating, Chelsea fan came up and punched me right in the face. Didn't feel a thing. Adrenaline was running through my veins at such a rate that I didn't feel it. And at the time, I can remember getting punched and not thinking, shit, I've just been punched. I was thinking, fucking hell, this is great for the podcast. This is unbelievable. So, football is what you make of it. As a fan, especially as a Bradford fan, football is what you make of it. You either just grin and bear the shit, knowing that something good will happen, or you're a miserable git. There are a lot of miserable gits around. Bantams Banter literally was making the most of what was in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it did well. Not because we were good presenters, not because the format was good, but because we struck gold by the fact that we decided to start commentating on Bradford City at the right time.
Yeah.
Tom and I have got a good rapport, much like yourselves. You know, that's what people like to hear. That people like to see that sort of relationship unfold in front of them.
Yeah, I've said this before on the podcast, but when I listen back to a podcast I've done with Ash, I'll listen to like an hour of me talking to Ash, and then, you know, the podcast's done. I go to talk to Ash on Facebook Messenger or whatever, and I feel like I'm just picking up on a conversation we just had, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't talked to you for like 2 days. It feels like I just talked to you for an hour.
It's that's why podcasting is successful, and why it continues to be successful. It's free content, and it's normally good content.
Yeah.
The problem we've got nowadays is that big broadcasters know that as well. So big broadcasters jump on it and kind of kill it a little bit. So Tom and I were signed up for ITV during the last World Cup, followed their format, killed it because it wasn't. We were sat in Alan Davies' living room podcasting. It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
We're guys that wear our hearts on our sleeves. We react to what's in front of us. When you're watching England sitting on a sofa and then you record the podcast after the game, don't work.
Yeah.
Don't work for us. And so big broadcasts are killing it. The BBC, they're just turning their radio shows into podcasts. It's free for them. It doesn't cost them any money. They're making these radio shows, making them available all the time.
Yeah.
You can't compete with that. I don't think an independent podcast will ever be number one on iTunes again because of that. The BBC must have 20 podcasts in the charts all the time. How do you compete with that?
I don't sell so short.
The thing is finding something unique. These podcasts that are popular about murders, they're popular because This American Life found a story.
Well done. The reason we brought you here today.
There is an axe that you can show. But again, it's for someone finding something unique, then big broadcasters pounce on it, nick it, and fucking ruin it for everyone.
Yeah.
That's just what life is. It's the same with computer games. Some of the best computer games, most popular computer games, started out because some kid in his bedroom worked out how to code and made an interesting concept, and then someone's like, "Oh, I'll give you 10 quid for that concept, and I'll turn it into a £1 billion game, and you won't benefit."
Yeah. You know Crash Bandicoot, yeah?
Yeah.
The company that made that, Naughty Dog, they started off as 2 Jewish kids in America who just learned how to, program in the spare time, and they were making educational games, selling them around schools and whatnot. Then they go off to bloody college, and they found bloody Naughty Dog, get in touch with Sony, and then they become Sony's biggest bloody company and whatnot.
Yeah.
GTA, same thing. The original Grand Theft Auto was 2 guys in Scotland.
Yep.
They designed the concept for it. And when it was like the overhead bird's eye view, it was a massively popular game. I loved it.
Oh, going back to try and play that now.
It's impossible to play it now.
Is so hard.
Yeah, I've tried it. And because you can't use the D-pads or anything, steering is fucking nearly impossible. But that was the start of the biggest gaming franchise in the world. And it was just 2 guys in Scotland. Loads of it's made in Leeds.
Yeah, I was going to say they're based in Leeds. I have a friend from uni who's got some friends at Rockstar, and she tried to set it up when we were in uni for us to go and visit them, because some of us were interested in sort of moving into that industry. And they said no. If they have a plumber around to fix the toilets or whatever, they all have to shut their systems down and just sit with their arms folded till that person leaves. So nothing gets leaked.
I can sort of understand that.
Yeah, with gaming, the hype is what sells the game first.
Yeah, exactly. And not knowing anything, and the fact that it takes so long for the next one to come out.
Which is why I like Naughty Dog. We've said it a few times. Naughty Dog will they'll tease a game like they did with Last of Us. They'll be like, "Yeah, we're making this game called Last of Us." They'll give you a few details. Brilliant game.
And then they'll just leave it at that.
And
then just push
you won't hear anything about it for a year. And then they'll be like, "Oh, this is a 5-minute clip of some gameplay." And then you won't hear about it. And then it's like, "Oh, by the way, it's out now, so go get it."
Well, look at their marketing strategy is unbelievable. Red Dead Redemption. They'll have been making it for years. Then all of a sudden, maybe a year or more in advance, you'll see a poster pop up in game or something.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, when is that out? I've not played Red Dead Redemption since the PS2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you look at the poster and it'll say May 2019. You're like, oh, what the fuck? It's so long. But it's that hype that sells the game. GTA, they know whatever they do with the next GTA, it'll be the best-selling game of all time. They know it. Because they've found a formula that works, and it's the same with anything in life, I guess. You find something that works and you make it better.
They seem to be focusing on GTA Online now. I don't think they're moving on to another one.
Yeah, it's weird.
If they do that online with Red Dead Redemption, I think that could be really, really good.
Red Dead Redemption Online, the first one on PS3, was really interesting. Like you could form posses up and whatnot, and just roam around in the fucking wilderness,
pillage from Indian villages
and whatnot.
Yeah. Like that.
So I feel like if they do that, but then like build upon it as well and make it more fluid and dynamic and shit.
Sorry, I just realised I said pillaging Indian villages. I really used to like that. It's just a computer game. I don't want to make it sound like I hate American Indians or anything. But it was a great game, and I've not played it for a long time. But I used to like the realistic mechanic of riding the horse, getting on the horse. It was just so real.
Yeah.
Like my stepson Frankie's massively into Skyrim, loves it, and he still plays that to this day because it's like endless.
Yeah.
Especially if you mod it.
Yeah, and Minecraft. I mean, my stepson's nearly 18, loves Minecraft, plays Pixelmon or something, which is like a Pokemon thing on the Technic pack or whatever. I only know that because I had to help him download it. But
yeah, we used to have that. We used to have one that I did loads of extra blocks, and you could like make mines and have machines that sorted all the dirt into chests and stuff.
Built a massive castle for ourselves, and we had several quarries all set up and with pipes that were funneling all the blocks that were smashing into these chests, which then filtered by type. So like dirt would go into one chest, rocks would go into another, and then all the viable shit would go into another chest.
It's mental, isn't it?
Yeah,
what the fuck? Like you it's like an online life.
Yeah.
And before we finish, I need to tell you this. I've got a mate who's like a physicist. I know, astounding. I've got a mate who's a physicist. But he does a podcast called No Such Thing as a Fish. Right. And he once said on the podcast that there's a real case for that people in computer games, like the characters, think that is real. How fucking freaky is that? That the main character in GTA, for as long as that game is on, for as long as you're playing it, the character, because he's such a complex code, that he thinks he's real. That character in that game thinks that he is real.
Yeah.
Fucking freaks me out, that shit.
I won't say that AI is that complex. Yeah. A lot of the time, AI isn't assigned individually to characters. Like they have like a blanket AI.
Yeah.
That
So
just
like
affects
the way it works, because we built like parts of games like when we're trying to get into it. You build a script, like an enemy controller script, and that in that script it basically just tells the enemy like if your character pulled a gun out on them, then that script would execute a command where it recognizes you're a threat, and then it has to like do its things to take you out and stuff like that. And I think that's as complicated as AI gets in video games now. You do get people like Naughty Dog or something who will go the extra mile, and you'll have AI characters that you don't have control of, and you're trying to kill them. They'll try and find routes to flank you and stuff like that, and be sneaky about it.
Things are always getting better. I remember playing, I think it was like a Mickey Mouse game on the Mega Drive. Really good game. The graphics were incredible. Like Mickey Mouse jumped and he looked almost like he was the real Mickey Mouse. And back then I thought, how can it get any better? Really?
Yeah.
and now look at gaming. So imagine where we'll be in 20 years with gaming.
I used to have those thoughts like every now and then. I'd be like, wow, how can we improve on this?
Well, look at
I feel like we're at a point now where stuff is improving so fast.
Yeah. PSVR.
Like, you'll go from one game to the next game like a month apart, and the increase in like how they're using the system is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, that was quick.
But everything, I think the best games are always based on that Unreal Tournament thing, aren't they?
Unreal Engine is
Engine,
pretty powerful.
And that all originated with like Doom and stuff like years ago.
Unreal Tournament was pretty interesting. It was like Smash Bros. How Smash Bros. Is all Nintendo characters. Unreal Tournament was like characters from games that use the Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Oh, that does sound cool. I've not.
I remember Unreal Tournament 2 being really good, but I tried to get it again at some point.
Was Unreal like the
disc
first
was scratched or something?
online game? Like, was it one of the first online? I remember it being massive.
It was online.
It was online.
It was on original Xbox.
I don't think it was the first online game, but it was definitely one of the first online FPSs that got so massive, and it like sparked Halo and stuff like that. So
yeah, Halo, cracking game. I used to love that on the 360.
Brilliant,
Again, that's another game.
Wasn't
I played with.
Quake the big one that
Quake,
Quake.
yeah, that was PC, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was massive. But yeah, Halo, another one. You used to play it with the football mates on you, because again, competitive edge. You're playing on. You're a team. You've got to beat the others or whatever. Doing levels together. You want to succeed. Football can be linked back to most things.
Yeah.
That because of the competitive nature of it, because you want to succeed, because it's romantic, because you can enjoy it, because you can share moments with your children or your mates or your wife, or although not my wife, because I've taken her to Wembley twice, and the 2 times she's been, we've lost, so I'm not taking her again. But yeah, I mean, to try and conclude on we've gone down so many different avenues here, but football's mint, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you love football yet, Connor?
It might take a bit more than that.
Do you at least have like a newfound respect for
Do you know what you need to do?
I have more of an understanding of things that I found just like mind-blowing, that people could get that into.
You need to go and watch it. Same for you, Ash. I mean, Ash.
I've been to an Arsenal game.
Yeah,
but I was that young. I just kept asking my dad where the
if I could,
snack person was.
In an ideal world, I'd take you to those games knowing Bradford City's history, so then you realise what it means to people. That you can't fake that, unfortunately. It's like when a neutral commentator comes from the BBC, you can't fake it. Like, they know it's amazing, but they can't fake passion.
Yeah.
But you need to go to a game. I think following this podcast, I think the next thing to do is take you to a game. And then do another podcast at the game or after the game. And,
yeah, that would be really cool.
Hopefully Bradford City win, and you can see... because being at a football game is massively different to watching it on telly. Being there, feeling the atmosphere, feeling what other fans are going through is the best. Even if it's shit.
I think that would be a really cool thing to do. Yeah, we'll look into that. So before we sign off, there's something Ash had an idea to do, which I think will be good, especially for SEO. Which is to sort of get your predictions on World Cup.
Because it's like
get
right
your
around
thoughts.
the corner, isn't it?
Okay.
Have you seen? I'm sure you've seen all the groups, yeah.
I have. Let's start with England. I guess that's going to be
Group G, innit?
Group G. It's a decent group. I think Belgium's probably the hardest team we'll face in there. Belgium have got this at the minute. They're going through the golden generation, so they've got these great young players that are absolutely dominating the Premier League. They've got Kevin De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, who are top players. They're like unbelievable. De Bruyne, the most assists in football in the Premier League. So assisting basically is when you pass it and somebody scores straight after. That sort of thing. So Belgium, difficult, but similar to England's golden generation when we had the likes of Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard. They're kind of fucking it up a little bit. They should be doing better. England's team is really young. For the first time ever, a manager's been brave enough to pick a team of young, passionate players who are desperate to play for England. I like that. Normally you get the same old names who have failed time and time again, and they still get picked. So Gareth Southgate, he's got a history in youth. He worked in England's youth team before. I think England will do quite well. I think quarterfinals for England. Overall winner of the World Cup, Germany are the dominant force in football at the minute. When people look at the German model of football for their like domestic leagues and how they pay players, how they treat players, how their fans are treated, because every season ticket in Germany is cheap. There's no expensive season tickets because football is for fans. Football without fans is nothing. Football without fans is a business, and what's the point? So Germany have got the right ideas. I think Germany will win it. I fancy England to do really well. Brazil, they're all right, but they lost 7-0 to Germany in the last World Cup. So they're fallible. Brazil have always been this like dominant force in football. Lionel Messi, the world's best footballer, plays for Argentina, doesn't really do a lot at international level. Argentina, again, really similar to England.
Yeah.
Who else is in there? Ronaldo plays for Portugal. They won the European Championship.
We know somebody who's a huge Ronaldo fan. Then
Yeah.
Obviously, the only thing he will accept is that Portugal are going to win.
Portugal are really good. They won the European Championship. Can they win the World Cup? I don't think so.
Well, let me pose it in this way. So my girlfriend is doing this thing at work where you all put in a fiver and then you pick 4 clubs out of a hat. And then if one of those clubs win, you get everybody's fivers, basically.
Yeah.
So the 4 that she's got, I'll put this in an obvious order. Saudi Arabia.
No chance.
Russia.
No chance. They're on home ground, so unless there's something really dodgy going on.
France. Which I don't think is...
France are great. France, again, another team that are going through a real golden generation at the minute. Got some great, talented players. In fact, the players that they've left out, because you can only take a select number of players, the players that they've left out would walk into the England squad. So France are another one to keep a really close eye on.
Well, it's kind of lucky that she got that one as well, because that's her home team, obviously.
Of course,
so. Yeah. And then the last one she got is Portugal, which is obviously you've said.
I mean, they're better than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But yeah, France. You come to World Cup and the way people react to being at a tournament is different. You always get players that stand out because it might be a player you've never really heard of. They're obviously a good player because they're playing internationally.
Yeah.
But some players react to the pressure of an international tournament better than others. Some fail, some don't do very well under that pressure, some thrive under it.
Yeah.
You can never tell at a World Cup. There's always a surprise team, but it's never a surprise really who wins it.
Yeah.
England won't win it. They won't win it, but they'll do well because they're a young, hungry team. What you do need is for everyone to perform. And it's hard. Football, they've played an entire Premier League season. On top of that, there are the cup games that add to that.
Yeah.
There are a few cups to play. And if you do well in the Champions League, which is like the best trophy you can win as a domestic team, that's an extra 15 games on top of your calendar. So it's difficult. Players are knackered.
Aren't there some players that are having to choose between a World Cup and something in Europe?
I don't think so. Sometimes you need to decide, if you're an African player, the African Cup of Nations, which is like their European Championships, the same format, they have to choose between club football and African national football. There is that. But yeah, Germany, they'll win it. England won't. England might do alright, but yeah, it's going to be, for me, Germany, I reckon.
Well,
one thing we're doing at work, actually, is, you mentioned there about the picking the names out of the hats. Well, for the celebrity presenters that we've got at work, we are doing ancestry tests on them. So their second team is based on their DNA. If they originated from Nigeria, for instance, if there's Nigerian blood in them or whatever. I think, in fact, everyone originates from Africa. So but yeah, so I think that's a really good way of doing it. If you could afford to do the ancestry thing, like I'd love to find out that was like Brazilian.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Like I wanted to do it because I know as far back as my dad being from Scotland, but like I'd love to find out that my family was actually Scandinavian or something like that. It's so cool.
Apparently, though, some of these DNA ancestry places sell you information.
Yeah, a lot
sell
of them are
DNA.
doing that.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Once that's gone, you've got naught left.
It's so Orwellian.
Yeah, why do they need your DNA?
Who's needing your DNA? There's some clone of me walking around.
Yeah, it'd be mental, wouldn't it? Yeah. I mean, I always think that it's weird that if you donate sperm, you might just bump into a kid that looks exactly like you.
Yeah.
Like, shit. I mean, I don't want to go down another completely random angle, but can you imagine that? When you're donating sperm, there's children out there that are yours, and you've got no connection to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anyway, is that what we're going to end the podcast on? Sperm donation.
Yeah, we'll
Sperm
leave
donation.
That's
fine.
But yeah, it's been class, lads.
Yeah, I'll let you plug your shit, and then we'll plug our shit, and then we'll go.
All right, yeah. So we do, as you've probably guessed now, we do a show called Bantams Banter. The website is bantamsbanter.co.uk, where you can find out loads more about us. But you're really only going to be interested if you're into football. But we're doing some stuff during the World Cup, so if you go to that website, you'll see that content there. But I think it'd be good to follow up, because if I'm going to sell you football, you need to watch football. You can't just I mean, the World Cup's actually quite a good thing. You can get involved in the hype, maybe go to a pub.
Yeah, World Cup is the most I've got involved in football. I remember I used to watch BBC Three a lot, and they used to put replays of World Cup on.
Yeah,
and I'd be too lazy to change the channel, so I'd just watch it anyway. So.
Oh, that's one way of falling in love with football. It's laziness. But yeah, if you're interested in World Cup content and stuff like that, we're on there. Also, if you want to keep an eye on anything I'm doing personally, like I do a lot within sport, all sport. I'm on Twitter at Newcol, NEWCOL, or you can follow us on Twitter as well at Bantams Banter, where we'll be retweeting this podcast, I imagine.
Brilliant. Should hopefully be out in the next week.
It's 2 hours. That's a long edit. I do a 2-parter. But no, I've really enjoyed it. I hope I get to be pixelated. Are you going to pixelate me in an image?
I was going to do the Bantams Banter logo, but I can
do me.
No,
yeah,
I'll do yours.
Yeah. I like the one where you're. It was like a new. I can't remember. It was like a New Yorkie sort of like. There's that famous painting, isn't there? The cafe with like a guy in a trilby sitting in there drinking. And I think you and Ash were. Have you done one of you and Ash like sitting?
Yeah.
It's
like a cafe. Yeah, that's the sort of background loop on the YouTube versions of the podcast.
Yeah. Put me in there, turning up. I want to be pixelated.
No, the icon for this podcast will be your face, all pixelated.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm a massive fan of this like retro gaming popularity at the minute. Like how pixel art is really popular and like
pixel art is a weird thing because it's like one art styles that I'm like easily good at. Like I don't have to wind up or anything. I'll just go at it, and I'll come out with a decent result, and it doesn't take me too long. So that's why I sort of like defaulted to it for the podcast because I'm like, well, if I need to bash out these cover arts all the time.
Do you know what would be cool? I'll send you something. I've seen the FIFA 96, iconic for me. The first football game I really was into, and when you look at that, it's proper art. It's real art. Like the pixels on that, how the footballers look. They're not quite. They're better than previous versions of FIFA, and they're not quite so blocky.
Yeah.
But they're still blocky, they're still pixels. The crowd on FIFA 96 jumps up and down, there are flashes that go off all the time. It's fucking incredible. If you can, watch FIFA 96 on YouTube or get it on an emulator or something.
Yeah.
Because it's just, and for me it means a lot because I used to spend a lot of time, like I was bullied as a kid and stuff like that, so I used to spend a lot of my time playing FIFA, making my own teams. And then I loved how pixel art looked because I thought it was the best possible thing because I was going to make myself in a computer game. But now I look back on it, I just love it. It's just like a nostalgic. It takes me back to a time where I was pretty happy with my own company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So do that for the artwork. FIFA 96.
Yeah, so we'll plug our shit, which is just go on our Twitter at UT2cast. Everything's on there. Like that's the central hub of what we do. So
if you've come to this because it's been shared on Bantams Banter, by the way, listen to past episodes because the content that I've heard discussed on this transcends more than just gaming nerdery.
Yeah,
it's like
a lot of people ask us what our podcast is about, and I'm like,
you can't really pigeonhole it. Yeah, it's conversational. It's like listening to an alternative breakfast radio chat show. It's like I mean, we came into this podcast because you wanted to find out why I loved football so much and what it was that got me going about it, and yet we've discussed all sorts from royal wedding to sperm donation. So it's that type of thing that I think people like. I think people like it when a conversation darts around a little bit. So if you have come from Bantams Banter because we shared it, because I'm on it, listen to past episodes because there's some really good conversation on there. There are shout backs to nostalgia. There's looking at new computer games, and it's not just about computer games. It's just good casual conversation that you can listen to when you're concentrating on something else. And I think that's a massive part of radio's my favourite medium because of that, because I can have it on, drift in and out of it, and still.
Well, that's why I wanted to start the podcast, because that's sort of what got me through the workday, was listening to podcasts.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I want to do that for somebody else.
Yeah. It's just about finding that audience, and you will. Takes time, but you will. It was easy for us because it's football. There is an audience there. There were Bradford City fans there. We found our audience and then made the podcast. You've made the podcast and then now trying to find your audience, exactly. Which is the harder way of doing it, but it's the only way you could have done this style of show. So it'll happen. it'll definitely happen, and collaborating with other people is the way to make it work.
Yeah, well,
we're saying bye now. We're literally going to go on forever. I mean,
we've finally hit the 2-hour mark.
Have we? Well, my wife's in another room trying to figure out illustrations for a kid's book she's writing with Connor's other half, and I think they're going to finish the entire book.
Yeah.
So yeah, see you later. It's been great. I've really loved it. I've really loved being able to share some of my experience. If anything, it's sometimes better to share that experience with somebody that doesn't really like football, because then you really know whether what you've produced is good or not, and what type of people it transcends to. And that's quite nice to be able to do in person, rather than just somebody stumbling across it accidentally on iTunes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
No, it's been a pleasure. I've loved it. Thanks,
both
guys.
to you and to the listeners. And
thank you.
We'll see the listeners next week.
Yeah.